Hola, buenos días, hoy es el 2 de febrero y bienvenidos a la primera edición de la Mañanera de KCDSA. Good morning, it is the 2nd of February and welcome to the first edition of KCDSA's Mañanera. This is an effort on behalf of KCDSA's Kansas City Ice-Free campaign, where our goal, not to say the obvious, is to make Kansas City ice-free. This Mañanera was inspired by La Presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum herself of Mexico. I was also similarly inspired by LA Taco, a local media publication in LA that found itself under siege by the mass secret police across our country, and they rose up to the moment. So thank you. The aspirational goal of the Mañanera is simple: to communicate to you, chapter membership, and the KC Metro public at large what is happening right now in our country in this moment of incipient fascism, with a local angle if we can. With today as an exception, ideally these will be short, they will get to the point, they won't always cover everything, but they'll help you stay in the loop and understand with each Mañanera why ICE, DHS, they must be abolished and how none of us are free until we are all free. So with that, maybe some updates. For anyone who's been living under a rock, the people of Minnesota, particularly those in the Twin Cities area, have been under the most singularly aggressive assault and occupation by the Trump administration to date with Operation Metro Surge. Over 3,000 federal agents have descended upon the Twin Cities area alone, where they now outnumber the 10 Metro police departments combined. Entire neighborhoods have been terrorized. Federal agents have fired rounds into houses, they have tear-gassed babies, kidnapped children, and used them as human bait against their own families. And by no means of exaggeration, the United States federal government is sending federally deputized night riders to terrorize the non-white population of Minnesota in what amounts to an ethnic pogrom and a pattern of vigilante terror that is descended directly from the border wars that we saw in the Civil War and the original Klan that immediately followed after. Minnesota is by no means the only place being terrorized by ICE and its affiliated collaborators, but has become the focal point in what amounts to a roiling asymmetric war against the American people. And it is a war that is already being paid in blood. And by blood, I mean fatalities. As of this recording, there have been at least 8 ICE-caused deaths since the beginning of the year alone. From ICE custody, we have lost the following souls: Luis Gustavo, a 42-year-old Honduran son and brother; Geraldo Lunos Campos, a 55-year-old Cuban immigrant whose death at the infamous internment camp East Montana in El Paso was ruled a homicide by autopsy; Victor Manuel Diaz, a 36-year-old Nicaraguan son and brother; Paradi La, a 46-year-old Cambodian father; and Luis Beltran, a 68-year-old Honduran father and husband; and finally, Heber Sanchez Dominguez, a 34-year-old Mexican father and husband. Those are the camps. In addition, we have lost additional souls to street executions by ICE officers and their collaborators. Well, not from this year, technically. Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a 37-year-old Mexican immigrant, was shot and killed. Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old Minnesotan mother and wife, and a former Kansas City resident and UMKC alumni. Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old Minnesotan nurse and son. But in spite of the darkness we find ourselves in, there has been an immense amount of light. Since the beginning of these occupations, from LA to Chicago and now Twin Cities in Minnesota at large, there has been a mass mobilization of everyday working class Americans to defend their neighbors from their white supremacist government. Focusing on Minnesota again, it is estimated that 20% or upwards of the Twin Cities adult population has been mobilized in some capacity into community defense. Over 5% of their adult population has been organized into a rapid response chat like those that we're emulating here in Kansas City. Neighborhoods have daily block watches and security at school pickups, drop-offs, and releases. An army of patrols that lawfully follow ICE and document every move and action that they take. Sound protests at the hotels that are housing ICE. The first general strike in the United States in 80 years with mass participation of organized labor. And on the same day that Kansas City tenants won their historical strike against the Californian slumlord, Minneapolis too has formed their own tenants union because it's reprehensible to expect a community under siege to make the rent when entire families are literally incapable of leaving their own homes for fear of being disappeared. The energy being summoned in this movement is historical and it is rapidly escaping containment, not just in Minneapolis, Chicago, or LA, but everywhere. And that's because what is happening is unpopular. The sitting Trump regime has massively overplayed its hand. It mistook its own right-wing media ecosystem and the failure of the Democratic Party as a sign that the American people themselves were ready to embrace a MAGA-fied, blood-and-soil fascism that its drug-addled pedophile billionaires and staffers have fantasized regularly on their right-wing controlled social media platforms. Ever since the murder of Renee Nicole Good, and doubly so since the street execution of Alex Preddy, the Trump administration has found itself rapidly backstepping. Greg Bovino, the SS-imitating commander at DHS, is no longer the commander at DHS, and he has lost access to his precious propaganda accounts on Twitter. It's now assumed that he's going back to El Centro, where he's going to retire. Kristi Noem herself is desperately leaking to the press that she is the victim of Stephen Miller, and it appears that she might have her own head on the block next. And Stephen Miller himself seems to be afraid of losing his grip on power as one of Trump's viziers and the core architect of its current terror. And that's because Trump himself seems to be indicating very suddenly that his occupation is a little ugly. It's a little sad. It's a stark contrast and a dramatic turn from policy just a week ago. These are wins, even if small. The people of Minnesota have won a tremendous fight, an opening salvo, really, in the war against the fascist regime, and they did so with incredible discipline on the streets and through successful mass organization through their communities, labor organizations, and groups such as our compañeros at Twin Cities DSA. The people of Minnesota deserve to celebrate them leaving, and so do the rest of us who are organizing and fighting against these fascists. They cannot win their fights. They cannot win their war. The fascists' only hope in this moment is wanton and inchoate violence, and that if they bloody enough noses and perform enough street executions, that a majority of our neighbors will become too scared to show up and take the next hit, and they're learning very, very quickly that not only is it not working, it is giving the opposite result. Then the next city they move to will likely respond even more quickly and more aggressively to them because every occupation, every additional terror, every additional execution has lowered the threshold that everyday Americans, service workers, teachers, high schoolers, pensioners are sick and tired of these fascist pigs occupying our cities and being paid by our own federal government. It is a long war, but we are winning. Despite how much they believe we do not have rights, those fighting back have already proven that our tactics work. For every house that they break into without a warrant, someone goes free after judges slap down yet another phony charge of terrorism because our neighbors are on the street recording these terrorists. When they kidnap yet another child from our community, we organize and demand action from our courts and our legislators until our families are freed. When entire families are unable to leave their homes to feed themselves, our neighbors create food pantries and deliver the food themselves. And when the rent can't be paid, we create a union. They tried to call Marimar Martinez a terrorist, and now she's walking free. They kidnapped Liam Conejo Ramos and his father to another one of their concentration camps, and as of this last weekend, they're both home safe and free. Every fight is costly. Every fight is hard. But we are winning, and they are losing. When we struggle together and fight for each other, we win. So what can you do? My name is Elias, and I'm a member of the Kansas City chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. You've probably seen me or heard me at some point in the last month or two if you've been active at all in the local organizing scene. And that's because there's a lot of work to be done and we need your help. I'm the lead for the strategy and direct action of Kansas City's ICE-free campaign of KCDSA. And what we're doing is best described in a three-pronged approach. First, build power. We will work with our community allies to train and educate the public on best practices on how to respond to ICE presence and aggression. Secondly, create solidarity. We will collaborate with local establishments to deny ICE in our community and organize against those that choose to collaborate with ICE. Third, we're going to extend support. We will provide relief to those affected by ICE aggression by providing fundraisers, food drives, and other forms of mutual aid to provide that relief to those affected by ICE aggression and educate the public on our immigration system from a socialist framework. Whether it is helping to produce materials to get the message out on social media or on video, organize food pantries and deliveries through mutual aid, or working directly with me, to dramatically expand and organize the Kansas City Metro's Rapid Response Network, connecting with local educators to put together a plan for their students and their parents, or protesting local businesses that are profiting as collaborators in this campaign of ethnic genocide. Looking at you, Platform Ventures. The Kansas City DSA is building a working class movement to not only abolish ICE, but to build a better world tomorrow for all of us. Whether it is in Gaza or here, none of us are free until we are all free. I know this has been a minute, this first Mañanera. So I want to thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all again in our future Mañaneras. So until then, adios. Actually, no, one more thing. Chinga la migra. Bye-bye.